Hello, everybody. Thanks again for coming. This is the real start of the show. I'm not going to say very much about the show before we begin. I want you to enjoy it. And afterward, we're going to have a little bit of a discussion among the whole cast of collaborators where you can ask a few questions and have some conversation about the show. So we're going to talk about it then. Now, to begin, I'm going to need everybody's cooperation and collaboration together. And the reason we need to all be transported together more than 5,000 years into the past, more than 6,000 years to the east and north. And the easiest way to do that, I think, is through a process of mutual meditation and a mystical process of transportation. So what I'm going to ask you to do, it's going to be about 4 minutes long, which is going to seem like a long time. I want you to close your eyes. And I'd like you to go so far as to cover your eyes like you do in school. But if you don't want to do that, please keep them closed. And I want you to listen to the drums as the drums come in and focus your mind on the drums. And thank you for keeping them closed, because if you open them, you might only go 1,000 years in the past, and 1,000 miles to the east, and you'll be in the Atlantic Ocean and we'll never see you again. So let's complete the journey.
Welcome to our performance of When Winter Tamed the Horses. This story will be told in a manner whose roots extend far back into a prehistory we can guess only fragments about. Scientists believe that human language is perhaps 100,000 years old. Archaeologists believe that the oral tradition of storytelling is likely tens of thousands of years old. The oldest surviving written stories were recorded only about 4,000 years ago. We are confident that the most consequential events in prehistory gave rise to epic stories that could have been shared for centuries in the oral tradition, yet virtually all were eventually lost. The performance that is about to start represents the imagining of such a story about an event that would have a transformative and rapid impact on nearly every aspect of human activity. The domestication of the horse, within a few short centuries, would reshape agriculture, mobility, trade, warfare, and the societal landscape of humanity. Its diffusion would propel the evolution of the Indo-European language family to eventually embrace more than half of humanity. To tell this story, we must first take you back in time to the earliest Bronze Age, about 5,500 years ago. And we must bring you to a place, the Pontic Steppe at the western end of the expansive Central Eurasian steppe system. Imagine your tribe has recently emerged from a hunter-gatherer lifestyle to become nomadic herdsmen of goats, sheep, and cattle on the edge of the grassy plains of the steppe. You are bounded to the south by the Black Sea, to the west by the Danube River Valley, to the north by dense forest, and to the west by the endless steppes. You have gathered to hear the familiar story of your people's shining accomplishment. To do this, you must first summon the shaman. So I ask you all, with eyes closed, to listen closely to the rhythms of the drum. Allow the sound to transport you through time and through space to the nomadic encampment of your people. Imagine yourself in the midst of a wide grassland, sitting in front of an open campfire, eager to hear the epic story, which is your source of heritage and purpose. Now, imagine the shaman approaching and standing before you. Imagine him or her to look however you want your tribe spokesperson to look. Imagine what symbols he might carry through objects in his hands, or tattoos on his body, or jewelry on his neck, or head, or shoulders. Imagine how he may sound, and the words he might use when he begins to tell the tribe's cherished story. Imagine how you feel as you have gathered together with all of your family and friends and neighbors to listen again to the story of this miracle which has brought so much pride to your people. Now, please open your eyes.
Before and before. Before vast-angled shadows slipped across Giza's rich plains. Before Gilgamesh strode upon the earthen walls of Uruk, north, where the unending sea of grassland stood cruel and uncrossable, farther north, where empty steppe gave way to dense forests, and vassal tree spirits bore fruits in tribute to sacred mountains. Here, on the limitless plains, were flocks tended, as were herds, sheep kept for meat, driven from Anatolia's fertile belly by those who first arrived with plow and staff. Fleece, not yet made long and heavy by 1,000 cruel winters. For the songs of spindle and loom had not yet been sung. Goats arrived too from the southern realms to be tended in the marginal lands where grasses grew sparse. The wild aurochs, who were hunted since times long forgotten, had strength much admired, yet they too yielded to rope and to pen, and brought new delights to the gods in the sacred times of sacrifice. The sky gods descended to renew terms with the people. Learned priests rushed from their temples to mediate, for meat had grown plentiful, and the bride price had risen when strange copper traders had arrived from the west. Abundant times affirmed the profound wisdom of chieftains. But in the hard times that followed, the sun god's lapse could never be traced to an omission in the sacred rites. With the ebb of each succeeding winter, even the scant heat that maintained the herds was by divine torment cruelly withheld. The steppe became a blinding plain of infinite whites. The snow blanket, grown untraversable, hid the tallest grasses. Sheep and goats, unable to find fodder, began to wither and perish. Grains, stored for the people, were used to feed only the breeding stock and to provide holy sacrifice to the gods they'd offended. Neither livestock nor grain remained to sustain the people. The cattle bred from the stock of wild auroch were hardier. They could nose snow aside and graze on grass they unearthed until their snouts became frozen and the grass inaccessible. At last, the cattle did languish, and their numbers diminished. Even a people so accustomed to hardship, resolute and resourceful, can succumb to lament. They voiced their woes in an ancient dialect, the deep-rooted mother of tongues, born of a forbidding land, was destined to bear many children. Its crude utterance in the pit of calamity soon expressed a discovery that filled the world from the depths of its word hoard. Knowing well the caprices of its deities, the people never abandoned utterly the old ways of their ancestors. Bow, snare, hook, and net were employed. In the low hills, where the red deer persisted, and in rivers where fish abounded, brave hunters still recalled the ways to ambush wild horses that traversed the steppe. The beasts were swift and strong, but their meat was plentiful and pleasing to the gods. like sunrise, like sunrise to the moonless night, was the abundance of the wild horse to the decimation of the livestock after a decade of punishing winters, such that the horse became the chief sustenance of the people. Hunters stalked the wild herds ever deeper into otherwise barren steppe. In their hoof-trodden snowy wake, they found revelation. Stealthy hunters studied the herds against the vast monolith of white. Where horses tarried, sharp eyes glimpsed the green pallor of winter grass and the motion of kicking hooves that cleared away the frozen famine. Neither cold nor blizzard impeded the herds across the forbidding steppe. Thus were the hunters made heroes, but not yet made herdsmen. Settlements had grown, and to butcher and haul dead flesh from deep in the steppes was an arduous task. When live horses could walk, having bred the wild auroch into oxen and cow, it was no great leap to subdue the wild horse with ropes and great patience, and to pasture them alongside the other livestock. With horses and pasture, the sky gods found it pleasing to rename the people herd guardians and restored warmth to the land. How many harvests had passed, no one knew, before the guardians discovered the strength of the beast much exceeded its meat. The priest declared this profound blessing a testament to their divine interlocution. As one being was subdued, the other was transformed. By grip of bridle and bit, the speed, the range, and strength of man were past measure magnified. These riders were not just wind, but fire. East, across the steppes, they burned to Afghan, Kazakh, and Mongol lands, and thence to China, where Hugh the Great was soon to rise. South to Anatolia, and to Mycenae, and through the gates of Sumer's kings, to Persia, and further, to the land where Harappa's walls still shone fresh. North to the rugged Baltic lands, and even to the tundra far beyond. And west to the Danube's valley, where bright new alloys, born of blazing fires, would also shake the world. Plow, wagon, chariot, cavalry would tightly weave the land and shrink it to the scale of man's squalid conception. Wealth and trade, booming walled cities, conquering armies and vast empire, all surged on the sturdy backs of steed and stallion, declaring themselves hegemon above the clamoring thunder of hooves. And as the forgotten riders scorched across lands in all directions, they bore their treasured lexicon, and by their wealth and might, their words held sway, and birthed 1,000 tongues across half the world. Hittite, Farsi, Sanskrit, Hindi, Greek, Latin, Celtic, Slavic, Norse, Germanic, and Romance. All were mere branches of the prodigious mother's trunk and shared in its heft. Perhaps among these riders lost, a sanguine stage did stoop to stir the embers. What he uttered then, only a fool would guess. Yet if there lived a soul that still remembers, this is what I think he might suggest. Despair not in winter's deepest bitterness. For hardships born with minds ripe in readiness will upon the swiftest hooves ensure deliverance, and then toss a fist of ashes towards the bitter winds. Okay. Woo. All right.